Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's GBall. Today, I have an exciting new knife here to unbox for you, coming in from Kizer. This is going to be out of their Vanguard lineup, which is their more affordable line, if you will. Now, if this is your first time stopping by, welcome to GBall Vision. Feel free to drop a comment below. Let me know what your EDC is for the day. The knife we are going to be taking a look at is called the Renissance, and I got to see a few photos of this prior to unboxing, and it looks really cool. First off, you'll notice it has their button liner lock, which is one of the favorites among knife enthusiasts, and it's going to have that sheep's foot blade a lot of people really enjoy. So this is going to be a masterful combination. I think a knife that really hasn't gotten enough attention here early on in April. A lot of people focus on the Bladesmith series of knives, and for good reason. Kizer puts out a lot of good, more expensive knives, but I would say their bread and butter is the stuff that's going to be down under 75 bucks, and that's where this knife is going to fall. There are a couple of versions, I think 3 different ones, and they're all going to be under 70 bucks. We are looking at their N690, which, believe it or not, Kizer has used a lot of N690 in the past. It is a steel that I think a lot of people are not familiar with. N690 is a great steel, but the reason we don't see it a ton is because it's a more expensive steel to use. And that's why you see the more common 154CM, 14C28N, and Nitro V. Those are much more accessible and a lot more affordable to use. N690 is going to be in a class above those, and it just costs more to use it. But it is a fine steel. I put it up there with the likes of VG10, and VG10 is also a really good steel. So this knife is, for under 70 bucks, going to be a huge hit in my opinion, or it should be. They have a natural micarta variant. They also have a rich light, and then this micarta here. A couple different finishes on the blade. I think the other 2 are going to be satin. This one here is their black PVD, and then you have a fuller and stud combination for the deployment, which will be really nice. For the reverse flick, you can hit that fuller, and then for the thumb flick, you have that stud. You can use the stud on the reverse flick side as well. Nice sharpening choil here, and off the rip, the detent on this is beautiful, nice and strong, and I love the way Kizer does these button liner locks. I love this kind of half circle button, if you will. It's recessed down into the scale. Very easy to get to it and disengage the blade, but shouldn't give you any problems with premature disengagements with this type of design here. We are looking at a full micarta handle over top of recessed steel liners, and then we have their deep carry clip that is going to be left-hand friendly. The other thing is, this isn't a huge knife, but it's also not a small knife either, which is definitely welcomed on the channel. I guess it looks and feels a little bigger than it really is. It is coming in at 7 5/16, 3 inches of edge, and we got 3 1/8 of total blade. Bring out a couple of knives for comparison. We have the Kizer Drop Bear up top and the Vastid Raccoon on the bottom, and this knife is going to fit right in between both of those. And 2 more, we got the Katuo Mini Griffin up top and the Vastid Croc 329 on the bottom. Here again, it's going to fall in between both of those. In case you aren't familiar with Kizer's standard deep carry pocket clip, we'll get a look at that here now. They do work really well for carrying the knife. Aesthetically, they work good for that as well, and ergonomically. So all in all, it is a really good clip. You will have maybe an 1/8 of an inch maybe poking out of the pocket there. Good retention on the way out. The clip is not recessed. It is surface mounted, but the screws are recessed, which is what really matters. There should be plenty of clearance in there to get this in and out of the pocket. And that special touch for our lefty brothers and sisters out there, it is tooled for left-hand carry. We'll grab the arch nemesis off the shelf here and we'll get a weight check on the new Renaissance. I like to play a little game here on the channel with these new knives that come in. It is called Guess the Weight, where I attempt to guess the proper and correct weight for the exact and given knife. But I invite you to play along. You put your guess down in the comments, ounces or grams, whichever you prefer. Even if you already have a comment down there, go ahead and put your guess. I'm going to give it a go. And oh, on your way down there to comment, make sure you are subscribed here to the channel. If you enjoy this type of content, knives and EDC, it is the perfect recipe because I make videos like this every single day. I'm going to say that this is right there at like 3.1. 3.2. 3.2. Oh! Ah! Should have stuck with 3. I was going to say 3's a rookie guess. Should have went 2.9. 78 grams and 2.8 ounces. So, you know, typical stuff there from Kizer. They don't tend to go too far over ratios in most cases. Now we'll move next to our calipers here and we'll get a couple of measurements on our handle and blade. We are zeroed off there. We'll start off with the handle thickness, 0.46, so that is going to be considered a little bit thinner in my opinion. 11.7 millimeters, typically 0.5 is a good average, I would say, a good handle thickness. 2.8, but that's all, you know, subjective to each person. 110 thousandths, so pretty thin on the blade stock. Not a very tall blade, but it has some good room to come down. Let's see what we're looking at. I'm going to bet 24. Yeah, that's where it's going to be. About 25 thousandths right there. I could be just a touch high. We'll call it 24, 25 thousandths. Let's see how the Renaissance cuts out of the box. Use our standard catalog paper here. And as I said earlier, N690 is a great steel. It fully competes with something like 154 CM. And I would go as far as to say that off paper, it's even a little better. It has more corrosion resistance. So, you know, it has equal or better edge retention, equal toughness. So a lot of people aren't aware of that. And then you have people who aren't aware of the characteristics of something like N690 or VG10, who maybe listen to someone who, you know, doesn't know what they're talking about either. And, you know, over the years, I've heard VG10 is crap, N690 is crap. I've heard, you know, 10CR is crap. And then in the same sentence, those people will say 154 CM, though, is awesome. Well, they're very comparable. You know, 154 CM is very comparable to a lot of those other steels I just mentioned. So kind of odd, if you ask me, like VG10, N690, they are almost directly equivalent to something like 154 CM. So I've always found that funny. The reason we don't see a ton of N690, like I said earlier, if you're asking that question, you know, why don't we see it then if it's a decent or it's a good steel? Because it's more expensive to use it. Coming from Bowler, it's just a little bit more expensive than some of the other steels that we commonly see. In my opinion, this is a very welcomed change up in the under $75 arena. I think it is awesome. I'd love to see more VG10, N690. Hell, I'd even love to see S30V start to work its way down under $100 at least. And we have seen that in some instances, but I'm talking about on new releases, you know, with micarta, you know, all the bells and whistles, S30V for $85, $90. I mean, let's get that done. Button liner lock with S30 and micarta. Come on, under 90. That would be an absolute home run. And I think that it should be done. We are going to be looking at T8s. I didn't even say. T8 on the pivot and T8 on the body here. And T8 on the pocket clip as well. Very, very nice. T8s all the way around. I did tighten that a little bit. And we are still perfectly centered though. Detent on this, guys and gals, is beautiful. I love the little touch of purple here. It's not too much. I'd say that's just enough. That's just enough of that color splash to make it look really good. When I first saw this knife and the price point, and I was like, oh man, that's going to be a home run. And, you know, there's been a few knives that Kizer put out in April that has sold out. And this one is still hanging strong, all the versions. So, you know, I think this is one that has kind of gotten looked over, and it shouldn't be whatsoever, especially for people who don't like to venture up too much past $75. The next thing we have to do here is introduce the Renaissance to the spine whacker. We have had a little bit of trouble from Kizer with their button top liner locks, 2 of them in the past here, the very recent past. That problem has been rectified, at least according to the folks over at Kizer. I've been talking with them about that specific thing here the last couple of months. And, you know, hopefully we're going to be good to go from here on out. Companies are going to have their hiccups. It's how they respond to those hiccups that truly matter, in my opinion, because you're always going to have certain things that go wrong in anything in life, right? Especially mechanical tools like this. There's just going to be some slight things that happen. How does the company respond is exactly what I want to know. We'll start off with a light tap here. We have a tiny bit of movement in there. A tiny bit. We're going to give this a couple of good shots, though. Really good shots. Very good. Those quick ones out towards the tip. We're going to do this one a little bit extra because of the issues we've had. Feels good, though. Sounds good. Very good. That's precisely what we want out of our locking knife. We're not asking it to hammer a nail into a tree or anything like that. We just want to know that we have a good, positive lockup with our locking folding knife. And a compression lock like this, or a compression style lock like this, should be very, very strong and very dependable. So, you know, kudos to Kizer for, you know, acknowledging there was a problem and figuring out a solution and getting on top of it and rectifying that issue. I think this is going to be, once this gets more spotlight, I think it's going to be an absolute home run. This is really, really nice for a budget-ended knife. N690, multiple deployments, button liner lock, a couple different micartas, so deep carry clip that's reversible. It's got all the little bells and whistles that you would want on a more affordable knife. You'll have to let me know what you think of the Renaissance down in the comments. Let me know if you are going to pick up any of the new Kizer releases here. I always look forward to hearing from you. Hit that thumbs up button. It truly helps me out. If you want to continue to see more dope knife and EDC content, make sure you're subscribed here to the channel. I'll pop up a couple of new videos you have not seen yet. Go check one of them out. Have yourself an awesome day. Thank you for watching. Catch you on the next one.